Well, he's a lot thinner now, but in the early to mid 1990s for 6 seasons, Dennis Brown rushed, sacked, tackled, and pushed offenses back, working that 49ers defensive line. On the famed 1994-95 team that won the Super Bowl in Miami, as Sharon Jen tells us, he's been tackling a big opponent, hunger. And I've seen him, all 6'4" force who has scored big in the community.
All right, we still good up here?
Dennis Brown staffs a pop-up pantry for the San Francisco Marin Food Bank that feeds 950 people.
Thank you.
Most have no clue he's a former 49er.
I'm Dennis, the food bank worker, you know, and it's cool.
At first, retirement wasn't easy after 7 seasons with the Niners.
That was my identity. That's all I knew was Dennis Brown, the football player. And I got outside of myself, and I dealt with some demons.
He credits Alcoholics Anonymous for 4 years of sobriety.
When I kind of got myself together, I went back to my foundation. It was my grandmother and serving. And in AA, we talk about serving. And you dedicate your life to serving.
When the pandemic broke out, he volunteered 6 days a week for the San Francisco Marin Food Bank, plus St. Anthony's, Meals on Wheels, and other nonprofits. The food bank finally hired him to coordinate pop-up pantries that feed 33,000 families a week, half the households the food bank serves. When Dennis was a child, his family was on the receiving end.
In LA, getting from the food pantry was essential. And we were always afraid of running out of food.
But he was raised by his grandmother, who brought him to Skid Row every week to serve the homeless.
We would give fresh water to people who just didn't have fresh water.
Dennis now lives that legacy of service.
And I really believe it's what I'm supposed to be doing, a life of service.
So for giving back through years of faithful community service, this week's Jefferson Award in the Bay Area goes to Dennis Brown.
All right, Mr. Outreach and Action, Mr. Contagious Joy of Giving, Dennis Brown has joined us. And hey, let me tell you, hey, congratulations, Jefferson Award. I mean, that's high praise for your years of community service. What say you?
Yeah, well, you know what? I guess I didn't understand really what it was until my wife kind of told me it was a big deal. And I've been doing community service for quite a long time. And I never really thought about it. And I never thought about, because I always thought it was what I was supposed to be doing, right?
How's this for a segue, being a show host myself? How in the world are the 49ers going to feed 49er Empire a win at Levi's on Monday night?
Oh, I like what you did there, Vern. That's nice. And it's going to be tough. It's going to be a challenge. But it's interesting because I was just watching the Green Bay game. And I just saw Aaron Rodgers, probably one of the greatest quarterbacks, or one of the great quarterbacks in the league right now, him just really getting after one of his receivers because they didn't run the right route. And that's what it's going to take, I think, for the 49ers to play well on Monday night. You got to execute. And somebody's got to stand up on this football team and just make guys accountable. When I was in the league, it was Ronnie Lott. It was Roger Craig. It was Michael Carter. These are the guys that made you accountable for your play and what you did on the football field. And I think that's what this team is kind of missing right now.
This goes back to your days of playing for Seaford and all those great defensive linemen. By the way, I can see somebody with the San Francisco Food Bank just going, wait, he played defense for the 49ers? Yes, he did. But anyway, going back to your days, how much of an emphasis was there on tackling? Because I believe that is a hot button issue, especially for this particular defense.
Well, it's interesting because tackling is the basic, right? You learn tackling back in Pop Warner. I mean, I played flag football and we talked about the technique of tackling. And that is the key. I mean, that is what it's about, your technique. And this is technique. You would think as a professional football player, you would know how to tackle, but it's always something you have to continue to work on. And it's the technique, especially in the secondary. It just really looks like the technique is not there.
What do you make of OBJ being part of this particular team, especially now that Robert Woods is out for the season? Boy, if I'm Ambry Tom, if I'm the secondary of the 49ers, I'm like, boy, I really have to kind of pinch and kind of contain there a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, Odell Beckham Jr., I mean, he was one of the best receivers in the National Football League, just what, 3, 4 years ago. I know he hasn't scored a touchdown this season, but he's a weapon. I mean, he's an athlete. The things that he can do, he is a veteran in the NFL, and he's a good wide receiver. Maybe that Browns offense wasn't a fit for him and Baker Mayfield. Maybe they weren't on the same page, but he's a good receiver. This secondary has got some issues. So it's going to be attacked. It's going to be attacked early, and it's going to be attacked often. And Rams are making it obvious. Listen, we are trying to get back to the Super Bowl, and we're trying to win the Super Bowl now. And they're going out and they're getting these veterans players, and they're not only bringing, their ability to play on the field, but they're bringing their leadership too. So that's going to be important. I think that's what the 49ers are kind of missing, some of that leadership.
Who on the 49ers, or maybe give me two on the 49ers that you're really going to be looking at that have to be the difference maker in order for them to get over on Monday night?
Well, I think in this football team, it's not one particular player, but I'm looking at this offensive line. This offensive line has to have a very good football game. You got to keep Jimmy Garoppolo upright. You got to give him a nice pocket. You got to give him the ability to get the ball out of his hands into his playmaker's hands. So I'm looking at this offensive line as a group and the secondary as a group.
How about it, Dennis? Hey, one more time, one more hand in the dirt. Throw number 96 on. Just give me one more rep.
I got one down in me. So if I can get maybe a first down and it's got to be a run play, I can maybe defend the run just once.